Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips. As always, I'm Michael Barber at Grow Schools. We're happy to have you in for our chats on all things challenges facing school leaders. And we asked our friends over at Enrollstream and Lindsay to join us today for a conversation on choosing the right tech for your enrollment strategies. We got a ton of questions from you all during our Grow Enrollment Summit, as well as in subsequent Tuesday Tips conversations about different tech and tools. So we thought Lindsay and her team would be a great resource for this conversation. So I just want to welcome Lindsay back in and say, hi, how are you today?
Hi, Michael. Glad to be here.
It's good to have you here. I want to hop right into questions. As everyone knows, we try and keep these conversations about usually 10 to 15 minutes. But if we go over, I'm sure it'll be chock full of good conversation. And Lindsay will have a ton of things to tell us. So we'll start right here. Lindsay, we know that for school leaders, tech is so crucial in today's enrollment landscape. I want to just understand, tell me why, particularly today, just in the context of what school leaders are facing, why tech can be such an important thing for them.
Yeah, technology plays a critical role because families today expect seamless, personalized experiences. They're used to apps and online systems in every other part of their lives. And so now more than ever, schools need to meet those expectations. And the right tech doesn't just make things easier for families, it also helps schools work smarter. It streamlines processes, provides good insights, and can ensure that no prospective student falls through the cracks.
Yeah, it's such a good insight of thinking about how families are experiencing technology in their day-to-day, right? And just because they get onto a school's website doesn't mean they don't have the same expectations of the connections the school is going to be able to make and how they're recruiting them. So I think that's such a good insight to think about. Can you talk about specifically some of the big challenges? I mean, you all talk to school leaders every single day on their big tech challenges when it comes to enrollment. What are the biggest challenges that you hear about that schools face with finding the right tools for their enrollment strategies?
Yeah, a few of the common pain points that we see out there are first, manual processes. So many schools still rely on spreadsheets or paper-based systems, which can lead to errors and inefficiencies oftentimes. So for example, many charter schools begin by managing inquiries and follow-ups with a mix of spreadsheets and sticky notes sometimes. And it's simple and it works in the early days. But as the school gains visibility in the community and inquiries increase, this system quickly becomes unmanageable. And they're caught on their heels a little bit. And with so many moving pieces, it's easy for things to slip through the cracks. And then the real risk becomes when a family calls to check on their application, for instance, what's the status, and the staff really can't provide a clear answer. And so this lack of organization can frustrate families and also just leave a negative impression for the school that could potentially cost the school valuable enrollments. So the second that we see is just lack of visibility. So with centralized data, it's hard to, without centralized data, it's hard to know which marketing efforts are working or where families are dropping off in the enrollment journey. So when a school is running multiple marketing campaigns, say social media ads, emails, newsletters, maybe in-person events, and there's no way to track which efforts were driving interest, you lose kind of the impact of knowing exactly where those students came from from the marketing campaigns. Excuse me. And then as they start to see steady stream of inquiries, they can't, like I just said, they can't pinpoint where families are coming for or why some are stopped engaging after the initial contact. So it's the lack of visibility that they're struggling with that we see. And then finally, just poor follow-up. So a family might attend an open house, but without reminders or personalized communication, they might lose interest, and schools just miss opportunity to nurture those relationships. So those are the three main things that we see out there that ultimately drives them to talk to us to help them put a system in place that will address the pain that they're feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see how many schools run not only just enrollment, but so many other activities out of Google Sheets, right? And certainly those can be just heinous from trying to understand, how to keep tabs on things, keep accountability as it comes to when it comes to enrollment, and certainly don't help them systematize that experience when a kid or a family has shown interest for their kid of getting into that school.
Right. And it's free and it's great to start with, but
Sure. Yeah.
they reach a point where it's just not sustainable anymore, hopefully, because they're growing and more people are hearing about the school and interested in generating inquiries from great marketing campaigns. So there becomes a breaking point where they need to think about adopting a tech solution for these kinds
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah, so talk about specifically how like tech can solve those challenges from spreadsheets to follow up to making sure they're having that experience that the school wants them to have. How can tech help people and school leaders, deliver an incredible enrollment experience?
Yeah, great question. Because the right tools can make the world a difference. For example, so they streamlines workflows. Now that sounds like jargon, but really that just a CRM, more jargon, or a customer relationship management based solution, and we can unpack what that is, at some point if we'd like to. But or a similar system can automate repetitive tasks like sending up follow up emails or organizing inquiry data, and then so this ultimately saves staff time and reduces errors. So it's streamlined. It creates a process for the staff to follow and automates a lot of these repetitive tasks. And by automating these processes, staff can focus more on building meaningful connections with the families rather than being bogged down in administrative work. Then it centralizes the data. So it brings all of your enrollment info like inquiries, applications, and follow-ups into one place. So it makes it easy to track progress and spot trends for your enrollment personnel and your leadership, your principal. They can start to see what times of the year they're generating the most inquiries, for instance, or what stages in the enrollment pipeline students and families are either dropping out from or it just allows you to refine that system a little bit more for your schools. Also, personalizing communication. So tools can segment families based on their needs. So you're not sending a one-size-fits-all email. You can add personal touches with a CRM system that can make families really feel seen and heard, that personalization piece of it. And then finally, it measures impact. So the right tech provides analytics. So schools can see which strategies bring results and which need adjustment, like I was saying before, but a little bit clearer now. It's all about working smarter and not harder. That's the whole idea of these systems. So it's, an extension of your team.
Yeah, can you talk about specifically, your team works with a ton of schools on these efforts. Can you talk about an example where a school has seen the impacts of that optimization, have seen the impacts of measurement, or have seen the impacts of creating the experience that they want around those enrollment strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the charter schools we worked with was it the case that we were speaking about earlier, and they became overwhelmed by inquiries after running several marketing campaigns, which is a great problem to have. And it's a forcing function to have to figure out your systems and your processes really quick. But they were really at the time struggling to keep organized and following up effectively. And so, which brought them to us, and we implemented our CRM solution to manage their prospective student pipeline, and they immediately saw results with it. The system helped them track every inquiry, send those automated reminders, and follow up with personalized messages, so that by the next enrollment season, they had a 20% increase in applications. And that was kind of one of our starting schools when we realized we were really onto something with these systems, to be able to see that direct effect. Yeah, and the best part of it really is that their team felt less stressed and more in control in the process. So now, several years later down the road, those challenges are a thing of the past. Recruitment staff can now dedicate more time to building those meaningful relationships with families that counts. And the marketing team can concentrate on optimizing and refining their campaigns to maximize the impact of every dollar spent on marketing. So it's a win-win for both the school and the families that they serve. So yeah, and in fact, we have another Tuesday Tips session with y'all where we specifically discuss using technology, especially a CRM, as a solution to track and identify which marketing campaigns are associated with each prospective student and family. So you'll get a little deeper dive in that session.
Yeah, for sure. We'll drop that link in when that goes live into this chat for sure. I want to specifically to go back to that number you mentioned, 20%. I think it's such an important thing. Two things you mentioned there. Number one, the impact on enrollment in year one is huge for a 20% bump, right? But it's also the impact for the long-term revenue that those students are going to bring over the course of their lifetime with your school, and potentially the referrals and word of mouth that comes from a bump of that size, of course. I think the other thing you mentioned that's really interesting and I think important for school leaders to understand is the impact of these the right tech can have on culture, right? You mentioned specifically, hey, the process of going through enrollment and whatnot was that much better, and they had more impactful conversations. I think that's a really big insight that a lot of school leaders don't think about that tech can be helpful with, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. I want to wrap up just because we're right at that sort of 12-minute mark, and we like to keep these conversations at about that timing. What's one key takeaway you want schools to remember when using tech to drive enrollment? What's that one key thing you want to leave us with today?
Okay, so my biggest takeaway is this, probably, that tech is a tool, not a replacement for your team's passion and creativity. So when you use it right, it enhances your efforts and gives you the bandwidth to focus on what really matters, like you were just saying, Michael, to connect with those families and build your school's community. And to remember, technology should empower your team to work smarter, not harder, helping you create a more personalized and impactful enrollment experience for your families.
Yeah, such good insights there. Lindsay, where can school leaders find you or Enrollstream? What's the best way to reach out if they've got questions?
You can reach out on our website. It's enrollstream.com, one word. Or you can email me at Lindsay, Lindsay, at enrollstream.com.
Wonderful. We'll make sure that information is in the show notes as well as the captions so people can get and reach out to you. With that, we'll give a big thanks to Lindsay for joining us for a conversation on tech and tools and how to drive enrollment with the right tech. We're here every Tuesday talking Tuesday Tips, the biggest challenges that school leaders are facing, usually for about 10 to 15 minutes right here on the Grow Schools channel. We hope we'll see you back here next week. Thanks for joining us again. Take care.
Thanks.